Chris, what is our fourth main topic today?
Our fourth topic comes from Aaron G. Hey guys, did you see that Knives Out 2 became the third biggest movie debut on Netflix in history? How much of this success do you think is due to the fact that it had a theatrical release instead of just being dropped on Netflix? I personally don't think it would have had nearly as big of an audience. What do you say? Thanks.
All right, Aaron, thanks a lot for sending that in. And wow. Listen, for those of you who don't know, Rob and I have been saying for years on this show that in this whole thing about theatrical versus streaming, we have been preaching this gospel that the true path is a hybrid of the both, of the two. You want a movie to really succeed on streaming? Make sure it gets a proper theatrical release. And we've seen that truth play out. And then recently, in recent months, we've heard the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, echo that same sentiment now. Because we just realized there's no economic model to just making big blockbuster, high budget films that go to streaming. There's no economic model for that. And we just had a little taste of really proving that point. I mean, again, we were just looking at the top 10 performing, all the highest performing stuff on Disney Plus the other day, and like 2 out of the 10 were things that did not have theatrical release. 2 out of the 10 got to be on there. As for the highest performing things on Disney Plus, the things that performed best were the things that were in theaters. Those are the things that perform best. So along comes the studio now, and Netflix now has the Knives Out franchise. And they decide, okay, let's do a little experiment. Let's dip our toe in the water here and see what happens. We're going to give Knives Out Glass Onion. We're going to give Glass Onion a 1-week theatrical release. Modestly released. It wasn't a limited release by any imagination, but it also wasn't a huge, wide release. But they gave it a decent release. 1 week in theater. Let's see what happens. And the results are going to be seismic over at Netflix as a result. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety who wrote the following. Listen to this. During the December 26th through January 1st viewing window, the Knives Out sequel film Glass Onion, which dropped on Netflix on December 23rd, ranked in 127 million hours watched. Combining that stat with Glass Onion's initial Christmas debut on the streamer, which drew in 82.1 million viewing hours, and the movie has now reached 209.4 million hours watched per Netflix. That figure puts Glass Onion in third place, only behind the 2 biggest movie stars in the world, Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds' Red Notice, and maybe the most stacked cast in the history of any movies ever, Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio, when it comes to the streamer's most watched movies in the first 10 days of viewership. Glass Onion remained the #1 English language film on the top 10 rankings for the second week in a row and has now reached, get this, number 10 on Netflix's overall most popular films list after only a week. Maybe 2 weeks, get this, which is calculated, let's bring that back up here, which is calculated based on the first 28 days of streaming viewership. They're not even halfway through that 28-day window, and they're already in the top 10 of the all-time most viewed things. It is the number 3 most watched film in the first 3 days. This, a little non-special effect, non-blockbuster, whodunit, without, now granted, all due respect to Daniel Craig, but he ain't Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He ain't Ryan Reynolds. He ain't Leonardo DiCaprio. He's not the big mega star or whatever. Little murder mystery movie. And I can absolutely guarantee you, the person who wrote in the email is 100% right. There is no chance in hell that we are sitting here today talking about Glass Onion being the 3rd most viewed film in Netflix history in the first 10 days of release, only behind a Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds film and a Leonardo DiCaprio film. No way we're talking about that if this movie did not have a theatrical release. No way. There's just no chance. And the very fact that it got that release and got that attention and got that pedigree and got that gravitas on it, that it was it was a quote unquote, to average filmgoers' perception, a real movie. It had this type of release already in the top 10 all time, even just less than halfway through that 28-day window. I think this is another example, Rob. And you and I debated about Netflix's
Whether they
approach.
should have, yes.
And maybe it could have had even better results if they went full throw. Be that as it may. They stuck their toe in the water. They wanted to see what would happen. Here's the results. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you get another 3 months for free. Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM, while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say it is the perfect time to switch. I have absolutely loved using Mint Mobile, and like I've told you guys many times, I am now spending less than 1/3 of what I used to spend under one of the other major mobile carriers. And now with the whole buy 3 months, get 3 months free deal, it's even better. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a select device and plan. So guys, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months for free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Rob, what are the conversations going on around Netflix today? And what do you think about these results from Glass Onion?
Well, first of all, there's two things going on here. They acquired basically a franchise, a very popular franchise. Knives Out made $300 million plus domestically. Worldwide, in terms of the box office. They have stars Daniel Craig. This was a stacked cast with great actors. I love the fact that Hugh Grant is Benoit Blanc's husband.
That was a great cameo.
Amazing.
And how great was Agatha Christie's? How great was
Stephen Sondheim and Angela Lansbury?
How great was that cameo?
When I was watching
Handsome
the movie,
Hawk.
I'm like, Stephen Sondheim and Angela Lansbury in this movie? It was awesome. And I think that it's vital, John. But when you have a movie like this, you've acquired basically a franchise that has already proven popular. You don't not give it a theatrical release. And look, you and I, we did debate it, but even the Wall Street Journal came out and said they left a lot of money on the table by not making it.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
they absolutely left money on the table.
But you're absolutely right. And we've been saying it on this show. When you have something like this, it makes no sense not to release it theatrically because people know it's out there. They get excited about it. And they even gave themselves, I think, about a 30-day window from the time it was done theatrically to when they put it out on Netflix. So they even left time for people to stay salivating to see the movie. Those who didn't get out to the theater, it was like, I want to see it. And we watched it right away. And it was great. And by the way, I have to say something. I'm always talking about physical media, and the presentation of this film, technically, the way it looked, was incredible. It looked incredible. It was one of the best looking things I've ever seen streamed in terms of the picture and sound. Now, I know that his director of photography writes a lot about digital filmmaking. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but bravo to Netflix. I don't know what they did with their stream, but man, did it look good.
Chris, you see these numbers coming out. This is a really impressive opening for the film. Both, it did really well when it was in theaters. It's done for a 1-week release. It's done incredibly here on Netflix. What do you think?
I still am just hung up on why didn't you give it a wider theatrical release? It was so limited. So they made roughly about 15 million, which is nothing to sneeze at, right? For a very, very limited release. But they could have made 60 easily with just a wider release and recoup some of the cost of this film. I've been trying to find numbers on what this equated to in new subscribers, and I haven't been able to find a finite amount of data for that, right?
They don't make that information available.
That is one of those things of, this is great. Going back to our earlier question from Nate, I believe, of what they're doing for current subscribers. Hey, you got this great movie. You got this excellent piece of media made for you. That's lovely. But did this do what it needed to do of getting people to subscribe to Netflix and get new people in here and recoup some of the cost of this? I mean, in the long run, I'm sure this is a very smart financial move to have something of this caliber on your streaming network, but I'm still a little hung up on, I don't know if this was truly a success just because so much money was left on the floor.
But again, it was a success Absolutely, because for them it was an experiment.
And that's
It
fair.
was a test.
It's
And
just
I
an
think-
expensive one.
Because I want us to think about this. This same network that put out movies like the Ryan Reynolds star, Zack Snyder directed Six Underground. This now Little Glass Onion movie did better than that.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Reynolds and Chris Evans, or Ryan Gosling, I should say, and Chris Evans in, what was the name of it again?
The Gray Man.
Gray Man, right? A Little Murder Mystery movie just did better than it. We can Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. This Little Murder Mystery movie just did better than that movie. And I think it's because, so I think when you're evaluating was it a success as an experiment, I think the answer is resoundingly yes.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing, what they're starting to see is what Amazon has understood, seemingly has understood for a long time. It's like, if you want your movie to be really successful on streaming, the best thing you can do for the success of your streaming movie is to give it a theatrical release.
Yeah.
It's not either or. It's both and.
Well, we talked also about, John, how at Warner Brothers, they can't see any economic model where you'd make a $200 million movie and not give it a theatrical release.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they've done that. I mean, both the Gray Man and Red Notice Gray Man was like 220. And then Red Notice was $200 million. That's $420 million. And neither one of those movies had any kind of they didn't make any money. They just went on to Netflix. That's insane to me. I don't understand that thinking at all. And look what you get with Glass Onion.
Yeah. Now I'm seeing some people saying, "Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's just because people really liked Knives Out." Well, yeah, of course, people like Knives Out, and that argument would hold some weight if Knives Out made $1.5 billion at the box office. Glass Onion was a modestly successful film, made $300 million, which is really good for a film of its budget, but that does not equal being the third biggest debut movie ever in the history of Netflix. Some people saying, hey, it had a really good cast. Yeah, it had a really good cast, but it didn't have the star power, the pure star power of something like Gray Man or a number of their other films that have come out that have had much bigger A-list star power. This had to do with them putting this film in theaters first and then capitalizing on the fact that people loved the original. It's all a part of one big package, and it created momentum that led to this success.
And I also think that this movie had a much wider appeal.
Yes.
In terms of age range, and action movies are fine, but they don't appeal to as many people as this does, clearly.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I think, honestly, a couple of years, not 10 years, but like 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to be looking back at this example of what they did with Glass Onion as a little bit of a turning point with how Netflix and maybe a couple of other streamers approach things. Anyway, guys, what do you think about these numbers and these results we see in the major trades? Whatever you guys think about them, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.